meet the criteria, and then that's going to be on that first meeting in February for you all to select who is going to be on the Charter Review Committee. About the benches, get right to the mag this time. As Mr. Davis stated, those were not city benches. Those were private benches. There was a contract that the city entered with the owner of those benches. That contract has obviously since expired. There was a question about ADA compliance. ADA, the only part of benches that are regulated through the ADA regulations is that they are only required to be placed in the following facilities, spaces, elements, and rooms. Saunas and steam rooms, which is under Chapter 6, Plumbing, Elements, and Facilities. Dressing, fitting, and locker rooms, Chapter 8, Special Rooms, Spaces, and Elements. Holding cells and housing cells, Chapter 8, Special Rooms, Spaces, and Elements. With the ADA regulations, there isn't a requirement for sidewalks. If we have sidewalks, then there are requirements that we have to meet. One of the real issues that we had over the years with those private benches, we were actually in violation of ADA standards because they encroached out into the area that needs to be clear for ADA access. The only other requirement is if we have a public meeting space of forum. Let me get it correct. I lost my spot. Should have wrote my notes out a little bit better on this. It's in a public meeting area when benches are supplied, and it's for more people. For like an amphitheater, etc., a certain 50% of those need to be ADA compliant, but that has to do with the height and width and whatnot of those benches. What we've run into, and it shouldn't be a surprise to the commission, the ordinance that we have on the books right now concerning disposition of real property, we sell, trade, etc. property, or when we lease property. Our ordinance was last updated in 1984. Current state statute that we have to meet is 2018. And in the state statute, so obviously we're going to be at a later date bringing that portion of the ordinance like we have many other ordinances with an update so that we become compliant with what the state now requires. In the state statute, the value of municipal utility facilities or real property to be leased or sold and exchanged shall be determined by the appraised value of the municipal utility facilities or real property and not by the value of the lease. An appraisal shall be made by a qualified appraiser and submitted in writing to the governing body. So we couldn't just extend a contract that wasn't being met. We have about 3 years ago, the state updated the statute, the guidance that we have to, all municipalities, counties have to follow regarding leases. The days of the $1 lease for 100 years, we can't do that anymore. Right. We'll bring our ordinance into compliance. It is something that staff has been working on, has known about. It's something that you're going to hear about when the audit is presented to the commission. We will have a plan that will be coming forward to commission to address, because we have quite a number of agreements and leases and whatnot that do not meet the current standard. Right. And as those leases come due, or the agreements, the leases are out of compliance for whatever reason, at that point, that's where we are addressing those and bringing them up to the excuse me, to the current standard. I'm sorry I missed the lady's name. I think she's still here. We have an existing agreement with Z-Trans to provide public transportation. I've been in contact with Z-Trans. Actually, their contract is going to be up in June of this year. We can do one additional one-year extension. We discussed benches and shelters. Z-Trans is more than willing to come in and place where they can place, because it has to be within the city right-of-way. If there isn't enough room in the city right-of-way, then just like anyone else, they would have to have permission from the private property owner to place their equipment, their bench, their shelter on private property. If it's within city right-of-way and we don't violate the ADA standard for the clearance in the sidewalk area, then they will come in and place those benches. It's going to be something that will be discussed as we go through negotiations with them on the upcoming contract. That will also will have to go to commission for eventual approval. Excuse me. There was a question about, well, how does Las Cruces do it? Las Cruces, they have an agreement, much like we do, with a outside entity to provide their public transportation. As part of the agreement the city of Las Cruces has with that company, that offsets the cost that the city of Las Cruces has to pay for the public transportation service. Z-Trans actually broached that topic with the city management at the time, city commission, many years ago. And at that time, the sitting commission, city management didn't want to go down that road because there were already all these advertising benches, and they didn't want any more clutter. This is something that we can...
It was a long time ago.
It was a very long time ago.
Okay, make that clear.
I was here, but it was a very long time ago.
Right.
So that is a possibility. They did not bring up wanting to have advertising on their existing benches for Z-Trans. Their shelters, they do not have and have not had any advertising. The only thing that you'll see on their bus stops are the bus routes and the Z-Trans logo, so that you know that is where the bus stops. Most municipalities, looking at Las Cruces, some of the larger municipalities, they are extremely protective of right-of-way, much more so than the city of Alamogordo is. They have ordinances on the books that prohibit any encroachment, to include overhead encroachment into the public right-of-way. The public right-of-way is intended to get people back and forth in the future as cities grow, because we have done that in a number of areas in the city. We have used up the public right-of-way that we've had to widen roadways. If you go to, White Sands is actually the state. White Sands was widened quite a bit. You go to North Florida, just north of Indian Wells. The city has no more right-of-way there. Indian Wells, same thing. We've used up the right-of-way because roadways were widened at one point. Will that happen through the entire city? Probably not. But the right-of-way is also used for utility extensions, etc. So I think I answered all the questions that were brought up at the last meeting. If I haven't, let me know, and I probably have a note. I just flipped the page a little too quick.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? No? All righty. Okay, we're going to move on to remarks and inquiries by the City Commission. Okay.
I got
have.
one.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was.
Oh, so I've got one, but go ahead. I'll get after you.
Just a couple. Yesterday, And I mean, that's in the obituary, but I don't know that everybody knew, but Commissioner McDonald's mother passed away. And yesterday, I attended the funeral. I see former Commissioner Sykes is here. Welcome. She was in attendance yesterday, as were several people. So just wanted to send our condolences again to the Roberts family and the passing of Miss Velma Roberts. It was very interesting to learn about her. I still can't believe this. 31 brothers and sisters. What? Oh, they'd have to inoculate me, I'm telling you. Okay. Anyway, I'm going to ask her about that someday. Did your mother really? I guess so. I guess it wasn't a misprint because it was in the program yesterday and it's in the obituary. So our condolences to Commissioner McDonald on the passing of her mother. And then the other one, and this one just very sad. A few weeks ago, just before Christmas, I say a few weeks ago, just before Christmas, we dedicated the commission chambers to former Mayor Don Carroll, and I had the pleasure of meeting his wife, and apparently she just passed away on January 13th. So Rosemarie, she was very sweet, very nice to talk to her, and our condolences to the Carroll family on the passing of Rosemarie. I was a little shocked when I heard that. So anyway, our condolences to them as well. And that's all I have.
All I had on it was a little while back, I had, Brian reach out to the railroad about the Indian Wells and Fairgrounds crossings.
Yeah.
From what he's told me, we've got to have some sort of an agreement with them to pursue it any further. I kind of wanted to see if you guys would like to do that. The fairgrounds probably won't ever happen because of the fact that we don't have any crossings to close. But the Indian Wells one, we're not asking to close it. We're asking to move it, from canal. We're like about 500 feet or 1,000 feet. So we're not really adding a new crossing. We're just moving an existing one. So I didn't know if you guys would be on board with city manager, or if we need to bring this back as an agenda item, or if we can just give you direction, or.
Is the consensus of the commission, is this something that
We wanna
you're
pursue.
looking at this fiscal year or to be in the budget for the upcoming fiscal year?
I don't know, what were we talking about money-wise? It was only like 10 grand on the last one, wasn't it?
For the railroad, it would start at 10,000.
Okay.
That's just for them to really talk to us, talk to our engineer, review plans.
We needed,
that
we
amount
needed
could go up.
plans, though, yeah.
And then we would
Okay.
need to get an engineering firm on board because Union Pacific will want to see some plans. For
You can get it in this
not
budget.
going to full-blown design.
Yeah. We need about, 30-40% design on it in order to get them to start looking at
at
it.
least that, just for discussion purposes. So we're probably looking in the neighborhood, Union Pacific and the engineer,
Okay,
130 to 150.
okay. Yeah, that's just kind of the question more or less is if you guys would like to even pursue it. And then we can have staff start looking at what we got to do, how much money we're going to have, that kind of stuff, so. But sounds like we got time. We probably won't be able to get it in until next year's budget anyway, so.
If it was this fiscal year, then we would, at a staff level, we would bring that back in a budget resolution. I don't know if that could be the next meeting or not. Evelyn's shaking her head. It could be in the budget resolution at the first commission meeting in February.
Okay.
Or we can put it in as part of the proposed budget for next fiscal year. Typically, with that, we don't start those projects until we have the approved budget from DFA.
Yeah.
So nothing would start in the new fiscal year until after like the first week in September.
Okay.
So
we got
it's really,
time.
It's
Yeah.
up to
I
commission.
wanted to bring it up to you guys. I think it's important for us to be able to get to that side of town. We can only expand so far to the north and south. And, fairgrounds, like I say, is probably, the gentleman that used to do it with the railroad was a little easier to work with than the gentleman that has the job now. So we may just be, just spinning our wheels, wasting our time, but I don't know. Indian Wells, though, would probably be the easiest one and the most logical for the citizens in Alamogordo to use to get to the bypass and west of town.
So would it might, I'm just thinking, even if we don't get anywhere with him, maybe would it be something we could use in the future?
What do you mean?
Like, I don't know, I don't understand how all that, so they have to draw up some plans or
We'll have to get like 30% design, just kind of a basic concept of what we want to
what we
do.
want, right?
Yeah.
So even if we
Showing-
don't get anywhere with that, would it be something we could use in the future to try again?
Possibly.
It could be pulled back out.
Yeah.
There would need to be some, I'm sure, some updates to it because standards
Right.
change, but.
Right. But you could use the
Basically, what it'd be
basic
showing
design.
is the closure, correct me if I'm wrong, the closure of canal.
Right.
That crossing, and it's shifting.
South.
300 to 400 feet to the south. Going from a sort of 2-lane crossing at Canal to a 4-lane crossing at
Indian Wells?
Indian Wells. And just enough design to get it outside of the railroad right-of-way.
Yeah,
From
not a bad
That's
idea.
all the railroad would be concerned with.
yeah, I think the biggest inconvenience right now with that is when they redid the road, you can't turn left.
You have to go down.
You have to
and
go
make-
all the way down and make a U-turn and come back, and
In order to
I
do
actually have received a few calls about that. People are,
As part of it, assuming commission wants to move forward with it, we would also reach out to an MDOT because White Sands is a state
because
road,
you would have to
not
go
a
through the
city road.
island, yeah.
I don't foresee them having an issue with that. That's part of the reason that when they just recently completed the upgrades in that area, actually the infrastructure was placed underground to accommodate a new signal there, assuming that at some point
Went straight through,
it would,
yeah.
the road would continue out a certain distance. Maybe a whole different matter connecting to the bypass, but
Yeah. So, okay, yeah, I just kind of wanted to bring it up. Like I say, fairgrounds will probably never happen at this point. We used our only available crossing for a special interest one out there. So, but
Whatever.
Indian Wells.
You're gonna get me to change my mind, you keep it up there.
Yeah,
right?
Indian Wells might actually happen if we can convince this guy that we're not opening a new one, we're just moving an existing one, 400 feet.
and bringing it up to today's
And,
standard.
and making it safer, and that but it's gonna require some money to be spent in order for us to even talk to them about it, so.
Now, that would, unless Evelyn corrects me, that would be funded out of 109, which could definitely support the project.
Our favorite account,
Yeah,
just saying.
just really
I'm
need.
open to it.
Yeah, I think it's worth exploring.
All right. Well, that way staff can start looking into what we gotta do and how much we gotta fund and that kind of stuff, and then bring it back to us.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we do it now, and even, like I said, even if we don't or can't move forward, it's there for future commissions or future years or whatever, so.
Okay.
In the next resolution or as part of the proposed budget for next fiscal year? We can support it now. I just need to know which way y'all want it.
I don't know.
Next fiscal
Not
year.
sure how big a hurry we should get. Maybe we'll get lucky and that one gentleman will resign and we'll get somebody new. We need Papa
Or
Vinci.
transfer or
wasn't
something.
His name was Papa Vinci, wasn't it? Or something like that?
The previous person.
The
was,
previous
yes.
guy. He was actually very easy to work with and somewhat logical. You know, it's obvious we don't have crossings to close. We don't have anything to give.
Right.
So, but,
Yeah, the standard now, and from what we've been told, Union Pacific is going to hold us to it, is you must for an at-grade crossing, you must close 3, a minimum of 3.
I think that's a federal guideline too that they're kind of upholding as far as that goes. But like I say, there's leeway. We're not closing or not opening a new one. We're just
Moving it.
moving one. So, but, okay.
So this fiscal year, next fiscal year?
I think,
I mean, next fiscal year's coming up pretty quick.
yeah.
Like I said, it'll be after September before anything starts.
Yeah.
If it's next
Yeah,
fiscal
by
year,
the
which, I mean, it's
Time
not
we
the
get
end of the world.
anything, you know, designed or any of that kind of stuff, it'd probably be that long anyway, so. But
Okay.
whatever you think.
Okay.
All right. Oh, cool. And that's all I had.
Okay.
Oh, and my pothole on Lavelle Road was a lot better. You guys finally got it paved
Oh.
today.
I was just fixing to say, can we get the pothole fixed on
No,
the Bell Road?
they got it paved. They were out there in the snow today, and it's 100% better.
Oh, that's good.
Since you claimed the pothole, we'll send you the bill. You said it was your pothole.
Ah, it's his heavy trucks.
I don't go down.
Actually, it's a transfer station's heavy trucks.
And in exchange, they'll name it after you.
There you
How's
go.
that? I'm just kidding. Okay. All right, anybody else have anything? No? All righty. Okay, so we're going to move on to the consent agenda. Does anybody have anything they would like to pull off the consent agenda?
Like to pull number 8.
Number 8. Okay. Yep. Anybody else? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda minus item 8?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda, items 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, and 10.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Reardon. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
A second from Mayor Pro Tem Wright. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Carl Melton,
Aye.
Nick Paul,
Aye.
Stephen Burnett,
Aye.
Josh Reardon,
Aye.
Dusty Wright,
Aye.
Susan Payne.
Aye. Motion passes 6-0. We will move on to items removed from the consent agenda. Item 8. That's Evelyn. Hi, Evelyn. How are you? Finance Director Evelyn. Huh?
Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioners, I have item 8 along with Chris Herbert from the Eastern Regional Housing Authority, who is here for any very specific questions you have on this item. So this is the revised annual plan for the Alamogordo Housing Authority.
Okay. I just had one very specific question. On our packet, page 56, there is a line item requiring all contracts to use affirmative action to award them to minority and women's businesses. So I know we have something on our books that our contracts need to be qualification-based. So I'm a little worried about having both of these. And so I guess my question, 1, is it legally required to have that? And 2, what would it look like? What type of contracts are these?
The language is included due to the requirement. This is a HUD action plan, and it then requires, and being that these are federal programs, they are required to have that language in it to ensure that. However, we also operate according to the state procurement, so qualification and all those scopes of work are set out as well. So it includes both.
But there's no contradiction between our code of ordinances and this in terms of,
So no, because it's fully federal money, the federal guidelines take precedence over the ordinances. So if we had something in the ordinance that contradicted this, because it's fully federal money, this would take precedence.
okay. So none of these
Also-
contracts are city money. They're
Well,
not funded.
correct. They're completely federal, and
completely
actually,
federal.
so the Housing Authority right now is under a management agreement with the Eastern Regional Housing Authority, and will be moving there, so they're not even right now under city management, they're under Eastern Regional Management. So no city funds, fully federally funded.
Okay,
Good.
that's it. Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions? No? Okay. With that, do I have a motion to approve item 8?
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Reardon. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
A second from Commissioner Burnett. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Carl Melton,
Aye.
Nick Paul,
Aye.
Stephen Burnett,
Aye.
Josh Roden,
Aye.
Dusty Wright,
Aye.
Susan Payne.
Aye. Motion passes 6-0. Okay, we're going to move on to item 11. Yep. Item 11, consider and act upon first publication of ordinance 1666, repealing Chapter 23, Article 2302 pertaining to lodgers tax. We do have a couple of people that want to speak on that. First, we have Mary Ann Schweers. You can come up here. Yeah.
I'm Mary Ann Schweers, and our family has Heart of the Desert Pistachios and Wines, and I appreciate being here tonight. I'm a fan of Brian's. He knows that. And most of the time I agree with he has proposed. At this particular time, I disagree with one of the decisions, and that decision is to do away with the lodger's tax as well as do away with the dedicated position to promote and market Alamogordo, and then to give those duties to different offices here, different departments that are already really busy. Because what usually happens then, if that's not your main focus, it falls by the wayside. And I just don't think Alamogordo can afford to do that. So Nate has got some other stats and stuff to present to you, but as you all know, I emailed and talked on the phone, and my concerns about this issue. But thank you. I really appreciate being able to have in process this democratic process where if you don't agree with something that government does, you can come and tell them that, and you listen. I appreciate that. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me here at the City Council meeting. Appreciate you guys being open to hear our concerns and our thoughts about Mr. Cesar had spoken to us the other day about at the Promotions Board meeting. We do have some legitimate concerns, I believe, about the proposal about lodger's tax. It's how it's dedicated and what the potential solution is for this issue. I actually agree with him on a lot of things, but my concerns are that, and I believe the concerns of our board, as well as what I can say as a fact, many of the hotelers in town are concerned about as well, is that tourism is going to go by the wayside. And if we don't have tourism, we lose a lot of jobs, we lose a lot of investment in our community. If lodger's tax was repealed, what I didn't hear from our last meeting at the board was a plan to truly solve for the issue. It's difficult to stomach the idea of repealing a tax that's designed to promote our community and our really claim to being White Sands gateway, right? And if we pull the tourism lodger's tax, and it's a transient tax, not a tax that's assessed on the locals, it's not intended for that, right? It's intended for transients. And it promotes many of our activities, our outdoor recreation, all that sort of thing. And while it may not be perfect, I have many documents here that show that we have presented clear plans for many agencies over the years, and I've been on the board since 2018. There's concerns from new hotelers in our community that if we pull our support for tourism, that, maybe that's a big statement to hotelers. We employ hundreds of people, so we have lots of financial responsibility. If you drive down White Sands today, you see almost every hotel that is of significance investing heavily into our community, hundreds of thousands of dollars just from my property in this year alone. So I have deep concern about this. We cannot give up that claim. I'm open to the idea. I am a capitalist. I would like to put more money in our pockets. As business owners, it's a slim margin in what we do, but not at the cost of losing the potential. And there's untapped potential. There's a lot of untapped potential now in Alamogordo. I would love to see an actual plan. You can't say there's no plan, so we should pull it without a plan to replace it. I can demonstrate the plans if you'd like to see them. I can email to anybody. They've been submitted to the council in the past, maybe under different terms, but they are there. The question is, what were the analytics and did you actually measure them? Okay, and there are measurable analytics. So happy to share that with you guys at any point. Speak to anybody one-on-one. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. You're up.
I am. Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Commission. So you have before you, it is ordinance 1666 to repeal the lodger's tax. The lodger's tax is a 5% tax on anybody who rents here in the city of Alamogordo. It is currently split between Fund 16, which is the promotions, where the promotion board is here speaking on behalf, and the other 60% goes to the operations of the Civic Center. So over the past 3 years, I was over the fund, the promotion fund, and then Evelyn and I have been working just to look at the expenses. What has concerned us is we receive the revenue, you have to spend it within 2 years or give it back to the state. That has caused some wasteful spending. We are not getting rid of the tourism. We are actually just going to refocus and get rid of the tax and refocus our tourism efforts to better benefit the city of Alamogordo. Getting rid of this tax allows more flexibility to the lodging industry. They can either charge a cheaper price as compared to Las Cruces or Ruidoso, or they can charge a service fee and keep that money and reinvest it into their own advertising, into, the hotel business, whatever they need to for their operations. We felt that it was in the best interest of the lodging industry as well as the city because of the restrictions on the fund. We do have a plan. One of the things we do plan on keeping is the New Mexico Cooperative Grant, which is a 2-to-1 match. So if we spend, last year we got $300,000, so we spent about $100,000 and they gave us $200,000. That's a really good grant. It has all the digital, the print, the micro-influencers. It has everything built into it to where we'll still be advertising City of Alamogordo. We just won't be getting it from the patrons who stay here in Alamogordo. As far as the part that supports the Civic Center, we will pull that into the general fund. We believe it's a city building. It's for city citizens. We believe it's best supported from city funds, from the general fund. We don't feel that this is a tax that we can be good stewards of the funds because it's just been wasted. We have a whole room of stuff that was bought because it could. We do definitely believe in the advertising of Alamogordo. That's 100%. We're behind that. We have a great community. We definitely want people to come here. We just think that it needs to be scaled down to where the money isn't just being wasteful and that we can have a better handle of it. It's not, we had one person doing marketing, one person doing communications, one person doing tourism. That was all one person. We didn't split it up into different people. One person was doing it all. We just better refocus it. Now we have one individual for each of those, so there's going to be a better focus on the communications out to the public. There's going to be better the marketing. We have Bailey. She's out there working on all the videos and everything. She's marketing Alamogordo. And then we have the tourism piece that Evelyn and I have been working on. So staff recommends removing this. Of course, this is, or repealing this. Of course, this is a decision for commission. And Evelyn and I will stand for questions.
Okay, so it sounds, okay, if I'm reading this right, we end up with about $300,000 a year from, The lodger's tax, is that correct?
So about $500,000, it fluctuates. If you get rid of that year where we had the Operation Allies Welcome, that year was extremely high, over $1 million.
that's not fair,
So
yeah.
take out that.
Right.
It hovers around $500,000. The average 5 years was 80,000, sorry, I need glasses. Of that, about 220-ish goes to the promotions. The rest goes to the Civic Center and special events.
How much goes to promotions?
220,000.
Okay. And it sounds like you have a plan to replace that money.
Yes, because a lot of that 220,000 was done for travel, buying stuff, and it did a lot of advertising, but most of it fell under the co-op grant, on which we still intend to go after. In fact, it came out today that Evelyn and I will work on the survey on what we're going to provide for it. And we're also going to provide we've talked about some type of venue for businesses to, submit their photos or their type of advertising, as opposed to having select few get selected in these magazines, so.
Okay, and do we know where we're advertising currently?
Yes.
Because I know it's not just, well, I mean, I don't. I know some of it. I know there's New Mexico Magazine and some of those things.
We have the New Mexico
but-
Magazine, we have the Grand Canyon Magazine, we do YouTube, West Texas Digital, Texas Monthly. We have some Instagram videos.
Group Travel Leader.
Yeah, Group Travel, sorry, my
What is
paper's
it?
super tiny, sorry.
Oh.
But I can send this out.
I
This
getcha.
was, actually, Commission approved this grant, so this is pretty much where we're advertising.
So we're
And this-
tracking that, okay. And you're not planning on changing much of that? Or are you looking at what's working and or do we even have a way to know what works and what doesn't?
So Evelyn has actually been really involved in it. I've been involved in the research. I think that's why they keep me around, because I like the statutes, so.
She's much better at the research than I am. So what we want to do going forward, and one of the reasons that we're talking about repealing the lodger's tax is, so when you go to DFA and when they train you on the lodger's tax, they give you 4 questions that you have to answer. And, all of those questions are, will the event use or bring people from out of town? Will they stay in motels, hotels, motor, trailer, court, or other lodging facilities? Will they be eating at local restaurants, and will they frequent local sites and stores and attractions? If somebody comes to you, or if you as a city have a plan for an expenditure from the lodger's tax, those are like the 4 main questions that you have to ask. They're good questions. There's nothing
Right.
wrong with those questions, obviously. But what happens then is if you come with an event that doesn't answer those questions, then we can't help you from the lodger's tax. And so what we want to do is we want to move this into the general fund. We want to make it, and you guys have seen the budget multiple times now. The lodger's fund. The general fund is very transparent. We talk a lot about the general fund. We talk a lot about everything that lives in the general fund. This will allow us to have the tourism program be more accountable to you all, because it'll be in the general fund, it'll be out there, versus it having to answer one of those 4 questions. Because we've been in a situation a couple different times where there's maybe something we've wanted to support and we really couldn't support it because our program was completely based out of lodger's tax fund money. So what we want to do is we want to bring that in, continue doing the co-op grant, because it's incredible. And the co-op grant is the one that you see, the New Mexico True. It's the one that has very specific branding. It has everything that goes out under the co-op grant has to go through the Brand Resource Hub. It has to be approved. Very certain pictures, very certain captions, very certain look. Like everything is very specific out of there. But it's great. The other thing that they bring in, like Stephanie mentioned, was the micro-influencers. We work with a company called Simply Social that hooks us up with influencers that fit our area, allows them to come out. They do their Instagram posts, they do their Facebook posts. I've learned so much about social media in the last 3 months.
You and me both.
And so, that's something we need to leverage more, that we really haven't leveraged more, and we want to bring that in along with the print media that we've been doing. And for those of you that have been on the commission a long time, y'all remember the billboards, because at one point in time, our whole tourism program was billboards. And so we've kind of scaled that back, gone to print stuff. We need to move harder into the social media. We need to move harder into partnering with the businesses And by moving away from the lodger's tax, it'll give us that opportunity to move more into those areas. And tourism's not going away. That's not anybody's intention. It's not my intention, Stephanie, or Brian's intention. We just want to make it more flexible and more transparent to you guys, and also let the money go back to the hotels, let them use it more efficiently, let us use our GRT and because truly today I sat down and I analyzed based on a question that the city manager asked me this morning, saying, you know, for the money that we spend out of Fund 16, out of the promotions fund, do we see a difference in the lodger's tax? Can we measure the bang for our buck? It was really interesting because I did 9 years. And no matter how much we spent in the promotions, whether it went up, whether it went down, the lodger's tax stayed flat
the same.
until COVID, where it took a dip, and then until the refugees when it went up. So even if we increase, you know, 1 year we increased expenditures 8%. That year, it went up. The next year, we dropped it 18%. The lodger's tax went up 8%. So I don't see a mathematical correlation in between what we're doing on the promotion side and the lodger's tax at this point. So I think if we go ahead, we remove the lodger's tax, let the hotels, let the lodging use that how they need to use it, let us use the general fund, build a different type of tourism and promotions program, and see how that goes.
Yeah. You know, I have to tell you that in 2022, of course, I run a nonprofit. There are several other nonprofits that received a grant to provide temporary shelter to the homeless. I know Nadia was just here, and she works for the counseling center, and she was part of administering a grant that was, I think it was about $20,000. I think Leving spent about $10,000. I think the Hunger Coalition got a grant for some money, and that was all to provide temporary shelter, i.e. hotel rooms, to the homeless in our community. And you know, we had to pay that tax too. It's not like we get a break on it, you know what I mean? And so I think I just named off close to $50,000 right there. 20, 30, 40, yeah, about $40,000 in hotel rooms in our city between all of us that we had to pay lodger's tax on. And so, you know, I mean, if I take myself out of it as the mayor and just put myself in as the director of Loving, I don't like the lodger's tax either because it just costs us more money. And please don't take that wrong back there, okay? I don't want to see it in print tomorrow, sorry. But we're really just trying to help the homeless, I promise. But it really is, in that respect, which has nothing to do with us as a city other than the homeless are our citizens too. But in that respect for us, it really is sort of a burden for us because it's just that much more money that we could spend helping in other ways. And so, and I just named off 3 nonprofits. I mean, there's plenty more. There's a lot of churches that provide hotel rooms and that kind of thing. So I've sort of wrestled with this back and forth because I see both sides of it. But you know, I think the biggest thing for me is I just wanted to make sure that we were still going to do those promotions. We were still going to promote our city because it's important that we do that. But so that's kind of my 2 cents on that one.
If we decide to pass this ordinance tonight, we'll let it go for a year or 2 or 3 and decide that it's not working, we can always repeal ordinance 1666 and put the lodger's tax back in place, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then one question I had is, when these motels collect this, who do they remit it to? Do they give it to the state and then the state gives it back to us, or does
No.
it come direct to us?
Yeah, they remit it directly to the city.
Directly to the city? And you said if we don't spend it within 2 years, we have to give it to the state? Okay. Yeah, see, I don't really particularly care for that.
Yeah, I
It
don't
had
either.
nothing to do with collecting it, so I don't.
That's why there's a lot of waste. I think that's why there's a lot of wasteful.
Because we're
spending.
forced to spend it or give
Yeah.
it away
Yeah.
to the greedy people up
Yeah,
north.
use it or lose it type.
Okay. So, and
Yeah.
I don't know, I honestly think we ought to give it a try for a couple of years and see what happens, you know? I mean, it's a tax decrease for some of our local businesses of 5%. I mean, that's,
Maybe what we could do, and I don't mean to be like micromanage, that's not it at all, but maybe you could try it for 6 months and then come back and just kind of give us or try it the first year and then just come back and give us kind of an idea of how it's going, or,
So the first thing you'll see is the NMCO grant, and that will be your first check on us of what we are going out there and getting, what print, what digital, what social media, all of that. So you'll see that probably before May-ish, probably. That's when they'll let us know what we receive from the grant. So, yeah, we'll definitely be coming to you more, especially if we see something that's working and we need to make an adjustment to the budget. You're going to see that. So, yeah, definitely.
Are the grants covering the money that we would receive in the tax money?
So the grant will be 2-to-1 match.
Okay.
So whatever we decide to put out there, and of course, what's really nice is the digital and the social media has become a lot cheaper as opposed to billboards and prints. So we, as Evelyn said, we're trying to move towards that in that part of the industry, and it becomes a lot cheaper. And so the match, the money will go further for us.
Is there limitations on what we can spend that money on?
So we will have to apply, and we will put what we want in there, and then we're stuck to what we want in there. So we have to put some planning into how we're going to
Spend the
advertise,
money.
yeah.
I got one other quick question.
Hold on, let me respond to that a little bit. That's for the New Mexico Co-op grant. From there, though, because we're going to come in the budget and ask for general fund money, there's going to be less limitations, so we can come and ask for money to help local organizations advertise their events, even just locally. Before with, lodger's tax money, it has to be for something that's going to draw somebody in so that they're going to stay in the lodger's tax. Whereas, if it's something that maybe we can help you locally, we can help you locally and not have to worry about the lodger's tax and bringing people from the outside.
Yeah, because I have heard people comment on the lodger tax money as far as what it can go to helping the community with, and so.
So with some of that, it's very specific with the lodger's tax. So I was born here, I graduated from here, but I moved away. I didn't realize how many events there used to be here. I know that we're looking to have like more sporting events for softball, baseball, soccer, swimming, all of that. That will help bring the local communities around for these tournaments. But using lodger's tax, it's very specific. Like you can only use it for T-shirts, bottles, and there's advertising Alamogordo, but in very specific manner. And it has to have, it's just too restrictive, I think, for, I know that you all have kids in there. For the kids and the tournaments, I think it's too restrictive for that. We just want to promote Alamogordo overall for the big things, and but we also want to help the local community. That's one thing that Brian is very big on. It's not necessarily quantity as it is quality. And that's what we're trying to bring in, quality events for our citizens while letting everybody know Alamogordo is a pretty awesome place to stay. So.
I have a question for Nick. How does that affect the Balloon Festival, the lodger tax? Do you guys?
It doesn't.
Okay.
So
Not
I
to my
had
knowledge.
I had given Michelle the paperwork because that was a very specific event. So was the Gus Smacker.
Right.
I had given the paperwork so that we could help to give them the money to help promote Alamogordo. I think it was too cumbersome for them to apply for it. So we never got it from either for the Balloon Fest or for Gus Smacker.
Okay.
but it is something they could apply for.
So it's something that they could apply for, but under the lodger's tax, it's very restrictive and it's a lot of paperwork.
Right.
As opposed to when we bring it to the general fund, it'll be a lot easier for us to.
Yeah, okay.
In the event that we were to keep this in place, is it possible to reallocate the money for other purposes besides? It's just a question.
So it's very specific on what the lodger's tax, like the 40% is for promotions, the 60% over, it's just a weird calculation, but as far as reallocating it, how? Like, it's not.
Say a convention center.
So the 60% can be used for the convention center, not the
Okay.
promotions board. But again, that still has to be used within the 2 years.
Within the 2 years. We
Yeah.
can't sit there and let it build up until we get to $20 million and,
No. We'll be waiting a long time.
yes, we will. Okay, that answers
It
my
was a good
question.
try, though.
Well, you know what I mean.
I do.
We
I do.
tried to.
300,000 at a time.
It would have to be along the lines of, if you remember back to the street maintenance program, the 2008 monies, we pledged the revenue
Yeah.
to I forget the dollar amount, a $15 million
It was a
loan. I
$15
think
million
it was at the
bond,
time,
yeah.
it was a $10 million loan. It would have to be something like that. We'd be
Yeah, you can use
pledging
it.
future revenue.
So we could
towards-
use it, we could pledge it to a bond or loan or something as a payback source.
The 60%.
Okay,
Yeah,
the 60% of it.
And you could use it towards debt service like that. I don't think that our bonding capacity would get high enough to get that large of a bond.
Okay.
Because our average is close to $600,000 a year. So there would be limitations to how much of a bond we could get.
Okay. All right. Just had to ask a question, so, because I knew we could do some of that, I just didn't know exactly, so, but. Cool. Mayor?
I'll just add, I know there were comments that this is a transient tax. I don't really think that's fair. If your pipe burst and your house flood, where are you going to stay? You're going to stay in a hotel. And so this is a tax on Alamogordo residents, and this is just my opinion. We shouldn't even be considering what-ifs or trial periods. This is a no-brainer for me. We have an obligation, if there's an opportunity to cut a tax, to cut it. And I want to give accolades to the city, because I think it's rare for the city, for a really tough decision, to initiate something like this. And usually, an elected official would initiate it, but I'm all for this, and I would like to commend the city, and I think we should go forward.
Like I said, we spend enough already on hotel rooms. I'm not going to complain. I'm feeling pretty confident that that you have another plan going forward, or you have a plan going forward. And so, and really, if we're really thinking about this logically, it really makes more sense because it is less restrictive. And so we can, I guess what I'm saying is I'm kind of excited to see what we do with that going forward. I mean, I remember the orange T-shirts, and I know exactly what you're talking. I get it. I'm guilty. I voted for it, but I thought it might be a good thing. So I will own that one. But I do remember that, and I think we have some that we give away now in our clothing closet at work. So I do. I really do think we do. So I get it. I like the idea that we're not being as restrictive. So
I'd like to say, if we pass this tonight, 2 or 3 years from now, decide that it's not working, we can always,
you can always revisit it.
can always re-implement the tax. So,
Is the expectation that we would maintain the same level of spend, if you will, that we had been getting from the lodger's tax? Or
We'll be, so I hate saying that we're trimming the fat, basically, so we will be able to get what we need from the lodger's tax without having to buy the stuff that's not needed, without having to spend, because we are having to spend $220,000, but it's not all going for promoting Alamogordo. There's a lot of other stuff that's,
how much would you say, on average, is towards like physical, tangible items versus the actual advertising and marketing of Alamogordo?
So for 2022, just because it's the most recent year, so we spent about $36,000 on salaries and benefits, which under this plan, the salaries and benefits are already allocated, so we're not spending additional money on salaries and benefits. We spent $4,700 on travel, We spent $132,000 on tourism, or not tourism, advertising. The biggest chunk of that went to New Mexico Tourism as our match for the co-op grant. And then we spent $9,215 on printing and another $1,500 on promotional. That was a lower number for promotional. Some of the previous years, we've been closer to $6,000 on the promotional, but we have a lot of stuff. We really don't need to buy any more stuff for a little while. That's kind of where the meat is. There's some other smaller little things, cell phones, like $70 on office supplies, kind of some small things like that, but those are kind of the big categories of what have been spent. Speaking as the person who does budget and presents the budget, my idea is to have about the same amount of spend, but I think that we'll be able to make that money go further, because at this point, I would like a new position, but there are some things I need to get off the ground before it's worth asking for a tourism position. So we can take basically about the same amount of money, and I think we can make it go further. Partially because we do have an inventory right now. I had to move the boxes again today, so I know we have 15 boxes of stuff. So we definitely have some stuff that we can use to kind of help get some of these other programs off the ground.
What would be the timetable too for somebody in that promotions tourism position? Are you guys looking within the next 12 months, 18, 24? How soon would you guys potentially look to staff somebody into that?
My thought is, because we're in the budget process now, I did not request a new budget. I did not request a person in this budget cycle. So my thought would be is to request it in the next budget cycle, which would give us a couple different things would happen. Our new software will be implemented, so we'll kind of be able to see. I don't think it'll happen in promotions and tourism, but it's very possible that the new software could really decrease somebody's job duties. And if there's somebody that could work on that, then maybe we do something there. If that's not the case, which I think is more likely, I don't think that's really going to be the case, then I would request it in the next budget cycle so that we have the framework of the plan and something that they can work off of.
But there isn't anything that's saying that can't happen sooner than the new fiscal year. There are any number of positions that come before you as part of budget resolutions. Right.
And that's true. I mean, if it works out and we get, there's some framework of things that has been done that I think could be extremely promising. They just haven't been fleshed out. If we get those fleshed out faster and stuff, then we would do the same thing that we have each department do. As we come to you guys, we give our presentation, we talk about our position, and then you all approve it or not approve it in the resolution. So we have some framework, like I said, of some things I think could be really great. They just have never been fleshed out, and that's the next step.
I think the real important thing is between now and that point, whether or not this passes tonight, everything that we're doing today that we did yesterday, we're doing tomorrow. So that doesn't change. What changes is where does the funding come from?
Yeah.
How can staff with commission's approval utilize those funds? And the real question is, does lodger's tax go away? And that goes back to those businesses that have to collect and submit that money to the city.
Anybody else have any questions? Thank you. Yeah.
I'll just make a
I
motion.
know that. That's okay.
I'll just make a motion. We approve ordinance 1666.
I'll second.
Okay, so I have a motion from Commissioner Reardon. I have a second from Commissioner Melton. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Carl Melton,
Aye.
Nick Paul,
Aye.
Stephen Burnett,
Aye.
Josh Reardon,
Aye.
Dusty Wright,
Aye.
Susan Payne.
Aye. Motion passes 6-0. Okay, we're going to move on to item 12, discussion of industrial revenue bonds and other requests by Valencia Real Estate Group. And did I miss something? I didn't miss anything, right? Oh, okay, good. All right. I don't know, maybe I missed some. Oh, I see why. And city manager and assistant city manager have some information on that.
Okay, so through the chamber, Valencia Real Estate Group reached out. They're out of El Paso. They made some requests of the city. In your agenda report, you have the 4 requests that they had. I am going to talk about the what did they ask for? Property tax incentive request is what they put in there. So specifically, they asked for industrial revenue bonds, IRBs. Basically, an IRB, the municipal issues the bond, and so we then are holders of the project, and that's how they get the property tax abatement. I took like I said, I love to go into those ordinances and statutes. There's 6 categories that qualify. I couldn't find that this project would qualify for it. However, we reached out to the local economic development board from the state, and I gave them all the information that I had, and this is what they said, and I quote, "If the facility is wholly and solely a residential housing using apartments for rent or sale, it will not qualify for an IRB. If the facility is a long-term care facility with units for rent, it will qualify for an IRB." So this project is just for housing, apartment complex at market, not low income. After that, we reached out to our bond people, Stifel, John Archuleta, and Chris Muirhead, who they've come before commission. They know everything there is to know about bonds. They also happen to know the lawyer that Mr. Valencia was working with. So they actually reached out to Mr. Valencia, to the lawyer, David, and I can't say his last name, and asked exactly what was their intention. So after Chris, our bond counsel, spoke with their lawyer, they also agreed that this isn't something that would qualify for an IRB. It doesn't fall under any of the 6 categories. They're not a 501c3. It doesn't meet the manufacturing requirement, et cetera. So we're just bringing this to you as information because this is, I think that the mayor has been approached. I'm not sure if anybody else has been approached. City manager has been approached to see how we can help make this apartment complex a reality, I guess. That's all I have on the IRBs. The city manager can talk on the other outside public works stuff.
Stephanie likes to break everything into inside and outside, so I get all the outside stuff. Mr. Valencia also had a number of other requests outside of the industrial revenue bond. The first of which, all 3 of these would require, if commission even wanted to consider it, a ordinance change. So the first item that he was asking the city to provide were the sidewalks that are required in any development. He would like the city of Alamogordo to install and pay for those sidewalks. If that was something commission was wanting to consider, that would require a change on our local ordinance. Right now, the property owner is responsible for the installation and maintenance of sidewalks in front of their properties. The second item that he asked for was for the city to perform and pay for the utility line extensions from our main lines, excuse me, into the property. Again, that is something that would require an ordinance change. That is not something the city does. That cost is borne by the developer, the property owner. The third item that he requested was that, so in this apartment complex, think of the other apartment complexes within the city or some of the mobile home parks, he requested that the city of Alamogordo, once the improvements have been made, the utility lines have been installed inside the complex, that the city take over ownership and maintenance of the water and sewer lines inside the complex. Again, that's not, that would require a change to our ordinances. I think everyone on commission has had a little taste of either a sewer service line, a water line inside a private complex, and knows the issues that we have dealt with over the years. But I did let Mr. Valencia know that it would be brought forward to commission if any of those items or something, or even the industrial revenue bond is something that commission would like staff to pursue. We are more than willing to do it.
Do we receive portion of the rent that he receives?
40%.
I'm just checking.
It's funny, I was just thinking the same thing, actually.
Are there legal implications if we were to maybe just do the sidewalks, for instance, and then a future development comes and says?
Well, right now, and I'm not saying this verbatim out of our ordinance, but in a nutshell, the sidewalks are the responsibility for installation and maintenance of the property owner. In most cases, that would be the developer when they do the initial developments. But once those pieces of property have changed hands, you bought your home, whatever, now that section of sidewalk becomes yours to maintain, or if it wasn't installed, for you to install. So if we go and install for Mr. Valencia, we need to repeal that ordinance or drastically change the ordinance, and then the question becomes, okay, this was a private development, now the next subdivision that comes in, do the taxpayers, the ratepayers in Alamogordo now pay for that subdivision and any future subdivision? And now what about the areas, because you can drive around town today, and there are many areas within the city where sidewalks were never completed. So it really opens up a can of worms, yes.
We just had to
If that was the
paid
direction
ours,
the commission
have ours
wanted
replaced
to
over
even
at our
pursue,
building.
from a staff level,
not cheap
it would
either.
be sidewalks become the city's responsibility, and that is a huge responsibility and burden that would be placed on not only staff, but the citizens of Alamogordo to pay for everything that may not have been maintained to the highest standard or not installed, and any future installation.
Well, and it would mean if there was a pipe burst or something and the sidewalk caved in, would that,
Well, so,
if
then
it was the
I guess
property owner's
I
side.
should take a
Yeah.
step back. So if there is a failure on the city utility, on the
Right.
city-owned portion of the utility, then yes, the city of Alamogordo will pay for
Right.
the replacement repair of the sidewalk area. That doesn't go back, if it's the city's fault, the city's problem.
Right.
We cover, the citizens actually cover the cost
but what I'm
of-
saying is if it were the property owner's fault and the sidewalk was damaged,
Yeah, that
by
falls
this
back.
logic, we could be paying a lot of money because,
Yeah, the maintenance repair if that ordinance was changed, repealed, yes,
Right.
that would now be on the city of Alamogordo.
right.
The tree root lifts the
Exactly,
sidewalk, et
yeah.
cetera. Yes.
Doesn't sound like anyone's in favor of doing this. It just opens up a whole can of worms.
It does open up a whole can of worms.
Every subdivision in Alamogordo is gonna come to us and say, hey, you did it for him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're gonna do it for us, so I don't think we should.
In passing an industrial revenue bond, what that does for the person that's going to get it, all the taxes are waived.
My biggest question is, in the event that they default, who does it fall back on?
The city, because we are the owner
you.
of the project, so
Yes.
that's the only way the
Which
property taxes
We
are
don't want
abated.
that, we don't wanna be property owners,
No.
we don't want that liability.
In state statute, or correct me if I'm wrong, because I might get this is inside stuff, so I might get this wrong.
I got the inside.
The city, you all do have the ability to waive all or a portion of the city portion
City
of
property
the
tax, yeah.
property, of the overall property tax on the operational
Yes.
portion, if I remember correctly.
So there's a Community Development Incentive Act that's what allows municipalities and counties to waive their portion of the taxes for the property that is not tied to debt service. So for the city of Alamogordo, it would be 5.156% that we could waive of our property taxes. Of course, that has to be put on the books as an ordinance resolution, but that is something that we could do. The county could do it as well, but they would have to pass their own.
But that would only be until the project's completed, right?
It can go up to 20 years.
Oh, I don't know if I like that, but. I mean, I kind of, you know what I mean? Like, I would consider it maybe until the project's completed, but I would consider that for any developer, just because they're building, but.
If this is something the commission is not necessarily specific to this project, what Stephanie is saying, if we would bring this forward as a new ordinance, so it wouldn't be just available for Mr. Valencia.
Right.
This would be, meeting the standards and procedures that are approved in the ordinance by commission. That would be open and available if they meet certain criteria for other projects, other developers.
And so they would come, if we pass it as an ordinance, it's the Community Development Incentive Act, if we pass that as an ordinance, then developers or whoever came, we would have to come bring that specific project to you as a resolution.
Each individual project? So we couldn't do it as like a blanket
I guess if you
ordinance.
put it in the ordinance, you could, that anybody and give city manager approval or whatever.
I would suggest if you're wanting to go down that road, you do it specific to the project, and there would be certain criteria, because
That they would have
you don't
to
want to
meet.
waive all property tax.
All right. Well, and
I
I
don't
wouldn't want to
think
do
you
it for 20 years, but I mean, it's something maybe you could consider just until, yeah, until the,
There's really no benefit though, something like that take, probably a year and a half maybe to construct, so you waive their property tax for a year. That's not that much of a benefit.
no, but it doesn't, I mean,
Couple thousand bucks.
The
yeah.
property tax, from my understanding, man, I don't do property tax, and we're getting back into that inside type stuff. But what I picked up from when the assessor from the county has attended a number of these meetings, there's the taxes that they pay right now on the vacant piece of property, which are relatively low, and until the improvements are completed, that's when the property tax is going to go. Commissioner Paul is shaking his head because he's in that business, or sort of in that business. Once the improvements have been made, that's when the property tax would
Go up.
hike. So
So there really
fits in
wouldn't
with
be a
what
benefit, I
Commissioner
guess,
Reardon's
yeah.
saying that.
I think that's why they encourage projects to up to 20 years, because after 20 years, it would be a benefit.
Yeah.
But I think that's probably why they put that 20-year limitation.
I mean, it would be nice if we could offer some kind of incentive to developers that, I don't know what it is. I really don't know what the answer is. I know I've talked to you about this a lot, but I don't know what the answer is. I just know that we do have a housing shortage, and we have a serious, well, I should say rental housing, if I'm saying that right, rental or short-term housing or whatever. We do have a serious shortage in our community, and it would be nice if we could figure out a way to, incentivize developers to come and build apartments or build, rentals, because we definitely need them. It's pretty difficult right now. However, I didn't think this would be the way to do it. It was worth a shot, though, but I just didn't think it would be the way to do it. So can I just ask, did Chris Muirhead actually reach out and get a hold of their attorney?
Yes.
He did, so they actually spoke?
Yes.
Okay, good. I just wanted to confirm that. And did they both agree that they didn't think it would work, or?
So his lawyer, the client is Valencia Group. So Chris's whole purpose of reaching out was to understand what the project was and what they were proposing and why they felt that this could qualify. One of the things that I believe David, his lawyer, said that this was proposed, something similar like this was approved in Albuquerque. So Chris wanted to reach out and see exactly what project. And so Chris did talk to him. I did some research on what it was. So it was the Sawmill District that they passed. And the Sawmill District, it had, I think, 15 apartment units, but it also had a lot of industrial. They're developing the old town of Albuquerque, so it's a completely different hybrid model where the apartment complex was not the main focus of what this was. So.
Okay.
So.
What do we need to do on this item?
I think it was just informational.
It's just information?
Yeah. So.
You don't need to table it or nothing? Okay.
No, it sounds like
The consensus is we are
we
not
have the
moving forward,
consensus
right?
and can get back to.
The biggest thing with that is the fact that the city's on the hook if the gentleman defaults, or if he goes in and gets half of it done and decides to leave, then we're on the hook for it, because it's
Well,
our
that and the
credit.
state saying, what did you just do? So, yeah. Because, we have to consider that would include all of the property taxes, not just the city's portion or just the county's portion, but all of it. And I feel like we would have gotten a lot of pushback for that, so. Okay. So we're going to move on to item 13. Consider and act upon the Atari Solar Community Benefits Proposal. And we have Ronnie Ortega, our Community Services Director, with some information on that.
Good evening, Mayor, Madam Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioners, City Manager Caesar. I'm actually here to introduce Halil Halberstam with Synergen Solar Company. He'll be proposing a project for you through an affiliate of Atari Solar that we'll benefit from if you approve this today. So I turn it over to Halil.
I'm thinking, I thought, okay. I think somebody was calling me trying to get a hold of somebody in the city, and maybe that's where I got it confused. You're not from like New York or something, or somebody?
Oh, maybe we have a consultant that we work with.
From New York?
From New York.
Okay.
Sal Spry.
Maybe that's where I got
That could be.
confused. Well, it's very nice to meet part of your company in person anyway.
Okay.
Yep, we had
Thank
quite a
you.
few conversations, so.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor Payne and Mayor Pro Tem Wright and Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to present this evening about the Atari Solar Project. Like Mr. Ortega said, my name is Hillel Halberstam. I'm managing member of Synergen Solar, and I'm going to talk tonight a little bit about overview of Synergen Solar, just a brief minute about that, and then spend a little bit of time about the proposed community solar project on the LaBelle Street landfill, but spend most of the time on the next section, which is talking about the benefits that we would like to propose to provide to the community as part of the development of the project, with the intent to get the Commission's approval for a memorandum of understanding to memorialize our commitment to the city to provide these benefits. Then I'll talk a little about some contingencies that the benefits are contingent on, and then we'll see if we have time for questions after that. So with that, just a high-level overview about Synergen Solar. We were formed in 2016 to focus on commercial, municipal, community solar, and utility-scale solar projects. I'm a member of the State of Maryland's Public Service Commission Net Metering Working Group and helped design the community solar program in the state of Maryland. Wrote some of the tariff language for the solar tariffs that were filed with PSC in Maryland for that program. And we have collectively about 600 megawatts of utility scale and community solar projects, either already developed or under development in various states: Maryland, Maine, New Jersey, Virginia, and of course New Mexico. I wanted to take a minute just to pull a few projects that we've developed that are similar to the Alamogordo, the Lavelle Street landfill in Alamogordo, just to demonstrate our experience that we have with developing these projects. We developed the Panorama Community Solar Project in Maryland, which is the largest brownfield project in the pilot program in Maryland. It's also on a rubble fill, construction demolition rubble fill, similar to the type of landfill on Lavelle Street. And it was awarded the Project of the Year back in 2019 by MDVCO, which is the Mid-Atlantic Solar Industry Trade Association. And it also won, it was one of two projects selected by the Maryland Department of Planning as a case study for successful solar siting and development. It's fully constructive and operational since 2019. About 1,200 households are subscribing to that project and receiving discounts on their electric bills through their subscription to that project. Another project that we have, there are two more projects actually up in the state of Maine, very similar projects. One is on the former Loring Air Force Base, on a portion of it in Limestone, Maine. That one is a designated brownfield and EPA CERCLA Superfund site. The construction is finished on that, and we're just waiting for the utility to issue permission to operate, which we hope to get in about a month or two. The other project is in the city of Caribou, not too far away, also similar size project, and that one is on a closed city landfill up in Caribou, Maine. Same construction timeline. They were actually built together about 20 minutes away from each other, and waiting for permission to operate on that one as well. So similar types of projects to the Lavelle Street landfill, which is also designated brownfield, and a somewhat of a construction or demolition landfill. So with that, I just want to pull up a site plan, proposed site plan, preliminary site plan of the solar project in the landfill. It's about 35 acres on the landfill. Plan is to access off of West First Street, come down that existing road, and utilize this portion of the landfill. Obviously, it can't really be used for too much else, so it's a good site for a solar project, and a good reclamation of that portion of the landfill. What I want to spend most of the time on this evening is talking about the benefits that we'd like to propose to commit to provide to the community as part of the development of the project. The first item is to install EV charging stations at various city facilities or city locations within Alamogordo. The second item is to provide discounted electricity to certain city facilities, and the third one is to sponsor a Keep Alamogordo Clean program, which will be fully. All these will be fully funded, by the way, by Atari Solar and us as part of developing the project. And the final final benefit is to construct and maintain a pedestrian path around the solar facility that we'll be constructing. So, to talk about the first one, we're proposing to install, and then, as long as the project is operating, maintain 4 level 2 dual charger EV charging stations at the zoo, the civic center, and then areas, certain, wherever in the downtown area that the city wants to put these, to install them there. The second benefit we'd like to provide to the community is providing the opportunity for the city to subscribe to the community solar project that we'll be building on the landfill, and the city would benefit by receiving a 10% discount on their electric bills for these 4 city facilities: the zoo, the civic center, the senior center, and the family recreation center. The third benefit we'd like to provide is to sponsor a 25-year, that would be the life of the project, a 25-year annual cleanup program to clean up any windblown debris that are on the landfill. We would, commit to paying volunteers $20 per hour to have like an annual cleanup day, if they want to come out there and do that. And we would limit the number of volunteers to 100 so that the maximum program year payment would be $16,000 and cumulative payment over the life of the program would be limited to $40,000. And the final benefit that we'd like to propose is to construct a pedestrian path and for as long as the project is operating, maintain that a 10-foot wide pedestrian path around the fence line of the project. Obviously, the project is going to be secured by a security fence around set because there is high voltage lines in there, so we don't want pedestrians accessing inside, and that'll be secured. But to have a pedestrian path around, there'd probably be about a mile long. It'll be paved asphalt and will be available to the community for walking, bicycling, other recreational activities at the city's discretion, as long as it doesn't interfere with the operation of the project. This is the sketch I put up earlier. It may be hard to see, but we kind of threw on there what a rough high-level sketch what it might look like. You might be able to see like a gray line going around the project. And it doesn't necessarily have to be square, but just to give you a rough idea of what it would look like. So it would kind of start at that access road coming down to the site and then run around the fence line and then come back to that end of that access road again. As far as contingencies for what our commitment would be contingent on, really not a whole lot. I mean, the one thing that we do need is to receive an MOU from the city it's a little bit last minute, but by close of business tomorrow, because the deadline for submitting our proposal, in order to develop this project, we need to be awarded capacity from the state, and the proposals are due on the 31st, so we just need to receive that MOU from the city in order to be able to use it as part of our application with the state. And then we would also just need to actually receive a capacity allocation once we submit our bid. It takes about, I think, 2 months. I think in April is when they start notifying the applicants if they want an award in the procurement, and we would just need to know that we won that award in the procurement, that we're moving forward with the project to be able to maintain the commitment for those benefits. And then the final contingency would just be, even if we win an award, but for some reason, and we don't anticipate this, but if something happens during the construction that makes us not really be able to reach commercial operation, obviously we would need to be attaining commercial operation in order to be able to commit to providing those benefits. So those are the three contingencies, really. And with that, I'm done and turn over for any questions if anyone has any.
What are your other project locations in New Mexico?
I have one other that's in Clovis, adjacent to a landfill over there. It's not on the landfill, but it's adjacent to it.
And is that under development or in operation right now?
Nothing in New Mexico is in operation just because the program is a relatively new program, so there hasn't really been the ability to do community solar in New Mexico yet. They just come out with the Clean Solar Act recently, and the PRC just came out with rules and regulations for the program, and they're going through the procurement now. So it's a brand new program that we're involved in.
So I'm going to guess, since it's on our agenda, the staff is in favor of this, or?
Yes, this goes hand in hand with, and I don't remember how many months ago it was. There's already an agreement that has been signed contingent upon the state approving the project for the area that he showed on the overhead there to place the solar field. This is in addition to the packet that gets submitted to the state. The state has a public participation component, if that's the correct term, between the company and the community that they would be serving. So that's what this portion is. Staff, Ronnie, Dave Nunley, maybe some other staff met with representatives from the company to look at what could be possibly brought to the community, and that's what you have before you before you tonight. One of the, and I'll probably get these reversed, I believe I signed the MOU, the letter is signed by the mayor, correct? Yes. So that's why it's an action item for you all tonight.
Would our city facilities actually take advantage of that discount?
Excuse me?
Would our facilities actually take advantage of the 10% discount on electricity?
Would we take advantage of it? I don't see why we wouldn't.
That could add up pretty quickly. Yeah.
Senior center is a huge facility.
Mhm.
Civic center.
Yeah.
So
it could add
compared
up
to
pretty-
what we're currently paying, it would be a discount?
Yes.
Okay.
And actually, just to clarify, it's both supply and distribution, that's what's unique about community solar, it's not just the supply portion.
Right, yeah, I see what you're saying. Anybody else have any questions?
I just want to make a motion to approve the agreement, item 13.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Reardon to approve item 13. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Mayor Pro Tem Wright. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
All those opposed? And motion passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, it was very nice to meet you, thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to item 14. Hi there. Consider and act upon the first publication of ordinance 1669. This is a map amendment to change the zoning on the property located at 1218 Michigan Avenue. And Sean, can you say your last name for me?
McGranigan.
McGranigan?
Yep.
Oh, okay. I'm going to have to say that 10 times before I get it right. Sean McGranigan, our Assistant City Planner. Welcome.
Thank you.
This is your first presentation.
Yes.
Are you nervous?
A little.
Don't be nervous. Don't be nervous. It's okay. Only Commissioner Reardon bites. Don't worry. I'm just kidding. Anyway.
But if you mess it up, you are on probation.
Okay, we're going to chase him off. Everybody stop. All right. So what do you have?
All right. So good evening, everyone. So today I have actually a couple cases. This one and then one after this. They're both rezonings. So for this case is rezoning 2022-6, and it's for 1218 Michigan Ave. So here you can see the zoning map. The yellow dot, the yellow dot shows the parcel. Currently, the parcel is in R3 two-family zoning, and the owner of the property, Bennett 2 LLC, is requesting a rezoning to R4 multifamily dwelling zoning district. So the green on that map, that is R4 multifamily dwelling district, so there is R4 in the immediate area, so it's not creating spot zoning. And additionally, the property is currently a fourplex, so rezoning from two-family to multifamily would actually bring the property into compliance.
Makes sense.
So there is just an aerial view of the property, so you kind of see the general area that's located in. So I sent 32 letters to property owners within 200 feet of the property. 2 letters were returned undeliverable, and I received no letters or phone calls of opposition. So this kind of just repeating, basically, the property owner is requesting a rezoning from two-family dwelling to multifamily dwelling. And all fees were filed and paid. A legal ad was placed in the Alamogordo Daily News. The letters were sent, and there's been no opposition. And that is all I have.
Hey, does anybody have any questions?
That property currently has a fourplex on it?
Yeah, it's not in the correct zoning. It should be in multifamily zoning, but it's currently in two-family.
Let's say, from the picture, it only looks like there's just 2 structures on there. Michigan.
There's 4 apartments, I believe, right? Yeah.
What's that little outbuilding there in the back? That, is it an apartment or a house or the little, right under your yellow dot right there?
Can we have him come up to the podium, please?
Can't even see who's talking, I'm sorry. Oh, hi.
This is my second time in front of the commission and the mayor, so I'm a little nervous too, but it's good to be back.
Then
So-
you're talking to the wrong commissioner. No, I'm just kidding.
The 1218 unit is comprised of 4 units, however, 3 are contiguous in the front, and then there's a detached unit in the back.
Okay.
So 4 collectively, but.
So we got 4 different residences.
3 attached and 1.
3 attached, and then 1 is
Separate.
is detached from those 3, so 4
Okay.
collectively.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions? No?
Let's make a motion to approve ordinance 1669.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Reardon. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Commissioner Melton. And will the clerk please call the roll?
Carl Melton,
Aye.
Nick Paul,
Aye.
Stephen Burnett,
Aye.
Josh Reardon,
Aye.
Dusty Wright,
Aye.
Susan Payne.
Aye. Motion passes 6-0.
Can you make the second Commissioner Burnett instead of Commissioner Melton?
No, he did.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
I thought you did it.
No, no.
Okay.
They both
did it.
did. That's why
Okay.
it was going, I couldn't decide.
Gotcha.
Right ear, left ear, what do I do? Yeah.
Only one I heard was him.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Okay, we're going to move on to item 15. Consider and act upon the first publication of ordinance 1670. This is a map amendment to change the zoning of the property located at 2500 North Florida and Sean McGranigan. I'm going to say that like 10 times. Again, you're up.
Awesome. So this is another rezoning case, 2022-7, and it's for 2500 North Florida. So currently, the yellow dot shows that's in the R1 single-family dwelling district, and the property owner is requesting a rezoning to R4 multifamily dwelling. So the green there, that's R4 multifamily dwelling, so there is that zoning in the immediate area. And there's also industrial and business zoning in that area, so it's kind of a mixed area. So it's not like you're plopping multifamily down in the middle of a completely single-family neighborhood. And this one also, there are 4 apartments on the property, so you're also bringing this one into compliance with the proper zoning. So there's an aerial view of the property, 2500, and then 803 is technically the same property, so some apartments are in 2500, some are in 803. So for the protest area for this one, there were 24 letters sent out. 1 was returned undeliverable, and no phone calls or letters of opposition.
Okay.
So that's kind of repeating what I said.
Kind of scary.
And then the application was filed and all fees were paid. A legal ad was placed in Alamogordo Daily News. No opposition, and then we recommend approval.
All right. Does anybody have any questions?
I'll just make a motion to approve ordinance at 1670.
Okay, I have a motion from Mayor Pro Tem Wright. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
A second from Commissioner Reardon. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Carl Melton,
Aye.
Nick Paul,
Aye.
Stephen Burnett,
Aye.
Josh Reardon,
Aye.
Dusty Wright,
Aye.
Susan Payne.
Aye. Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Does anybody have anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, I make a motion, we adjourn.
I already made it.
I'm sorry. I'll entertain a motion that we adjourn. Sorry about that.
second.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Reardon, a second from Mayor Pro Tem Wright. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? And we're adjourned. Thank you.